There was a century when humanity decided to destroy itself twice. 2 wars, 2 cataclysms, 2 moments when human brilliance turned into its darkest weapon. First, men drowned in mud and gas, their screams swallowed by the earth itself. Then cities vanished under blinding light, a single bomb silencing 100,000 souls. The First and Second World Wars didn't just mark history, they split it in 2. But one haunting question remains. Which war was truly more destructive? Was it the one that killed empires? Or the one that almost killed humanity itself? Today we'll face them, side by side, not as pages in a textbook, but as 2 faces of the same madness. At the dawn of the 20th century, Europe was a ticking bomb. Empires competed for colonies, resources, and pride. Nationalism was boiling. Each nation believed it was untouchable. And then, one bullet, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo, lit the fuse that would engulf the entire continent. The First World War, which began in 1914, was supposed to be short, but within weeks it became a global nightmare. Europe, Africa, Asia, all drawn into chaos. Just 25 years later, history repeated itself. Germany, humiliated by the Treaty of Versailles, was broken, economically, politically, spiritually. From those ashes rose Adolf Hitler, promising revenge and rebirth. He delivered only fire. Both wars were born from the same monster: ambition, nationalism, and human arrogance. Picture this: a gray horizon, endless mud, barbed wire, and silence, until the next explosion. Thousands of men trapped in narrow ditches, waiting for orders they knew could kill them. This was the Western Front, a scar stretching over 400 miles through France and Germany. Every inch of ground was paid for with blood. The trench war was static, brutal, senseless. The enemy was close enough that you could hear him breathe. The air was poison, the earth was disease, and the rain never stopped. Battles like Verdun and the Somme turned into industrial slaughterhouses. In the Somme alone, over 1 million soldiers were killed. And when the smoke cleared, the front lines had barely moved. Men returned home with hollow eyes. Doctors called it shell shock. Today, we call it trauma. And though the war ended in 1918, no one truly won. Empires collapsed: Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, German, Russian. And Europe was left shattered, angry, and lost. The seed of the next war had already been planted. If the First World War was a handmade hell, the second was about extermination. Humanity had learned how to kill, faster, smarter, and at a terrifying scale. Factories worked day and night to feed the war machine. Planes, tanks, and bombs rolled out by the thousands. This was no longer a battle of armies. It was a battle of industries and ideologies. The war began with Germany's invasion of Poland in 1939. Within months, it spread across continents. Europe burned, Asia bled, and the world itself seemed to unravel. But it wasn't just about land. It was about belief, about who deserved to exist. The Holocaust revealed the darkest corner of the human soul. 6 million Jews lost their lives. Alongside them, millions more. Roma, political prisoners, the disabled, anyone deemed unworthy. Meanwhile, the sky rained fire. Entire cities vanished: Dresden, Tokyo, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. By 1945, over 70 million lives were lost. The planet itself seemed to mourn, and humanity finally saw what it had become. The numbers alone can't capture the weight of what happened, but they whisper the scale of our madness. The First World War claimed around 16 million lives. 16 million. Men who marched to the front with songs on their lips and never came back. Another 21 million were left wounded, and behind them, millions of civilians starved or swept away by the diseases that followed the armies like shadows. It was a war that devoured a generation, the flower of Europe's youth, gone. Entire towns left without sons, entire families left without fathers. But then came the Second World War, and the nightmare multiplied. This time, the amount of lives lost scaled to 70, maybe 80 million people. A number so vast it loses meaning. 6 million Jews lost their life in the Holocaust, not killed in battle, but systematically erased from existence. In the East, over 27 million Soviets perished, and 15 million Chinese lost their lives as the war raged across their land. Civilians, not soldiers, became the main victims. Entire cities, Warsaw, Stalingrad, Hiroshima, were reduced to rubble and ash. If the First World War was Europe's downfall, The second became a loss for all of humanity. And when it finally ended, there was no real celebration, only quiet. By then, people had come to understand a difficult truth. When loss becomes so widespread, it no longer feels personal. It just turns into numbers we struggle to understand. Every war pushes technology forward, but in the 20th century, progress stopped being about discovery and started being about dominance. During the First World War, the future arrived on the battlefield. For the first time, soldiers didn't just face each other, they faced machines. Tanks rolled across no man's land, cutting through smoke and chaos. Machine guns changed battles in seconds. Submarines lurked unseen beneath the waves, turning the oceans into places of fear and silence. And above it all, a new kind of weapon drifted through the air, one that stole breath and hope alike. It was the first time humanity learned to fight without ever seeing the faces on the other side. Then came the Second World War, when that distance became the new normal. Technology didn't just support the war, it became the war. In secret labs, scientists built faster planes, stronger bombs, and smarter tools of conflict. Radar eyes scanned the skies. Engines roared with jet propulsion. And deep underground, mathematicians raced to unlock codes that could change the outcome of everything. But it all led to one moment, one creation that would alter history forever. In the desert of New Mexico, the atom split, and the horizon turned white. The atomic age had begun. With it came a power unlike anything before, the ability to end cities in an instant. Science had moved faster than conscience. The same human brilliance that painted masterpieces and cured disease had now discovered how fragile our world could be. After 1918, Europe was bankrupt. Germany was humiliated by the Treaty of Versailles, forced to pay impossible reparations. The result? A nation in chaos, hunger, unemployment, and rage. By 1923, it took millions of marks to buy a single loaf of bread. And from that despair, Hitler rose, promising hope and delivering horror. After 1945, the world lay in ashes once again. Cities destroyed, families gone. But this time something different happened. America launched the Marshall Plan, pouring billions into Europe's recovery. Factories rebuilt, highways laid, nations reconnected. Out of ruin, the modern world was born. Technology, globalization, capitalism. Ironically, the same wars that broke the planet also built the one we live in today. But the cost, beyond imagination. Both wars didn't just destroy nations, they destroyed belief. After the first, an entire generation felt betrayed. Young men returned home empty, broken, unable to describe what they'd seen. Poets like Wilfred Owen and Siegfried Sassoon wrote verses that bled despair. Words that asked, what was the point of all this death? Then came the Second World War, and humanity's soul cracked even further. The survivors of the Holocaust carried nightmares no therapy could erase. Women entered factories and front lines, redefining gender and society itself. And for the first time, the world began to question not just war, but human nature. From that horror came the birth of human rights, the United Nations, and a collective vow, never again, a promise we've already broken. If we measure by numbers, World War II was the most destructive. But if we measure by what it did to the human spirit, the first broke us first. World War I killed empires. World War II killed innocents. One shattered families, the other shattered humanity itself. And though the bombs no longer fall over Europe, the echoes remain in our politics, our borders, our fears. Because the truth is, the most destructive war wasn't the first or the second, it was our failure to learn from either. War does not determine who is right, only who is left.